Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're exploring how a seemingly mundane, totally ordinary mineral somehow became the heavy-lifting champion of the modern world. You've probably never thought about it, but right now there is a single mineral out there that is simultaneously holding back catastrophic forces deep underground, shaping global trade logistics, and safely guiding medical diagnoses all over the world. We're talking about barite.
I know, it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, doesn't it? What could 17th century alchemists, modern medical x-rays, and massive deep-sea oil rigs possibly have in common? Well, the answer actually connects a history of literal magic with multi-billion-dollar modern engineering, and it all revolves around the incredibly unique properties of this one specific rock.
So, back in the day, they called this mysterious glowing rock the Bologna stone. It was discovered by early alchemists over in Italy. And get this, it turns out that the exact same material that completely baffled those early scientists with its glowing properties is the very same material preventing catastrophic oil blowouts on ocean rigs today.
Here is the game plan for our explainer today. We're going to trace its roots as the magic Bologna stone, break down the hard chemistry of what exactly barite is, and explore its massive dominance as an oil and gas workhorse. Then we'll shift gears to its medical uses, map out the global barite market, and finally we'll forecast the future of barite.
All right, part one, the magic Bologna stone. Let's rewind a bit to see how this stuff first grabbed our attention. Because long before it was this massive industrial commodity, people legitimately thought it was a magical artifact.
Picture this. It's the early 1600s, and an Italian shoemaker and amateur alchemist named Vincenzo Casciaro finds some unusually heavy stones near Bologna, Italy. He takes them home, throws them into a fire, a process known as calcining, and boom, this unique stone does something incredible. It actually glows in the dark. This phosphorescence led early scientists to believe it held magical, maybe even world-changing properties. But little did they know, its real magic wasn't in its otherworldly glow at all. It was actually in its sheer, uncompromising weight.
Which brings us to section 2. What exactly is barite? Let's trade the alchemy for some hard science and see why that weight matters so much.
Okay, so the absolute most important thing to know here is its density. Barite is a naturally occurring mineral composed of barium sulfate. Its name literally comes from the ancient Greek word barús, which just means heavy. It has a specific gravity between 4.1 and 4.5. To put that into the real world, imagine picking up a standard gallon jug of milk from your fridge, but instead of 8 pounds, it weighs nearly 40 pounds. That's the kind of insane density we are talking about here. But there's a wild twist about its chemical makeup.
And the twist comes down to its safety profile. If you check out the safety data for this mineral from chemical producers, the toxicological information is actually pretty shocking. It's entirely non-toxic, not carcinogenic, and biologically inert. Even though it literally contains barium, which by itself is a highly toxic heavy metal, the molecular bond in barite is so incredibly strong that it won't break down in water or even inside the human body. It is completely safe.
Let's jump into section 3, the oil and gas workhorse. We're going to see exactly how this combination of massive density and totally safe chemistry solves one of the most dangerous engineering problems on Earth.
This specific combination of traits makes barite the absolute perfect puzzle piece for the oil and gas industry. When you're drilling a deep water well, you pump down a fluid called drilling mud. Barite is the ultimate weighting agent for this mud. Because it's unbelievably heavy but won't react with other subterranean chemicals, it creates this highly stable, heavy fluid. Plus, you can grind it down into an ultra-fine powder that won't shred your drill bits, and it's non-magnetic, meaning it won't scramble all those sensitive measurement tools they drop down the borehole. So how exactly does it secure a well? Well, it does 3 massive jobs. Number 1, and this is absolutely crucial, it controls the wellbore pressure. It essentially acts as a giant physical liquid cap, literally holding down the Earth's subsurface pressure to prevent catastrophic blowouts. Second, because the fluid is so incredibly dense, it effortlessly catches the rock cuttings chipped away by the drill and floats them right up to the surface. And third, it continuously lubricates and cools the drill bit under all that extreme friction. Honestly, without barite, modern deepwater drilling just wouldn't be possible. Moving right along to section 4, beyond drilling. Because this stuff isn't just stuck deep underground, it actually has life-saving applications right inside hospitals. Remember how we established that barite is crazy dense but completely non-toxic? Because of that exact combo, it forms the basis of the famous barium meal. Patients can safely swallow this pharmaceutical-grade stuff. Yes, doctors literally have you drink liquefied heavy rock. And because it is so intensely dense, it perfectly blocks X-rays and radiation.
giving doctors these brilliant, high-contrast images of your digestive tract during CT scans and fluoroscopy.
And the applications just keep expanding. Beyond medical diagnostics, barite is mixed into concrete to build radiation shielding for hospital rooms and nuclear facilities. They're using it in advanced 3D printing filaments for the aerospace sector, and it acts as an opacity filler in paints and plastics to block UV light. What's super important to note here for the global supply chain is that this medical and specialty segment is actually growing faster than the oil and gas segment. It commands a huge price premium, sometimes up to $1,200 a ton, and that really helps buffer the overall barite market when crude oil prices are swinging wildly.
Which naturally leads us to Section 5, the global barite market. Let's zoom out to the macro scale, because the logistics of moving millions of tons of heavy rock around the globe is no small feat. Now, even with all those incredible medical uses we just talked about, oil and gas still absolutely dominates global demand, eating up over 76% of the market. Basically, wherever in the world there is deep water or high-pressure drilling, there is an insatiable hunger for barite. The flow of this mineral traces the exact map of global energy exploration.
And wow, is that hunger growing rapidly? 13.63 million tons. That staggering number is the projected global market volume for barite by the year 2031. It represents a massive, continuous growth curve, fueled by the simple fact that oil and gas operators are drilling much longer horizontal wells and digging deeper into the ocean floor than ever before.
But getting those 13 million tons to the actual drill sites is turning into a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. Down in Latin America, especially Brazil's deep-water provinces, drilling is booming, driving huge import demand. Meanwhile, China, which has historically been the world's go-to supplier, has been aggressively slashing its export quotas. In early 2025 alone, that move caused global spot prices to jump by 12%. So, with China restricting exports, buyers are scrambling and pivoting over to India. India is actively using government stimulus to reshore its processing, setting itself up as the new swing supplier for the Middle East and Southeast Asia. We are literally watching the global logistics map get redrawn.
So what's next? Section 6, the future of barite. With prices rising and demand locked in, the market is obviously searching for alternatives and new innovations.
The absolute biggest looming threat to barite's dominance actually comes straight from the lab: synthetic alternatives. Meet synthetic hematite. It has a massive specific gravity of up to 5.3. That means drillers can hit their required mud weights using 25% less material, which saves a fortune on transport. Right now, hematite is a bit pricier, roughly $180 per ton compared to barite's $140. But as cheap byproducts from Chinese steel mills continue to flood the market, that price gap is closing fast. Synthetic hematite is threatening to displace hundreds of thousands of tons of barite demand in the coming years.
To fight back against this synthetic threat, barite miners are having to get really aggressive about keeping costs low. Right now, over 75% of barite comes from bedded deposits. Those are the massive, easily mined open-pit seams. But the real hustle, the fastest-growing sector, is in residual deposits. These are ores sitting right near the surface that require very little processing. Mostly you just wash and screen them. By targeting these easily accessible deposits, miners are drastically speeding up production, slashing their costs, and fighting tooth and nail to keep natural barite economically competitive against the lab-created stuff.
Which brings us to our final thought. We started out with Vincenzo Casciarlo way back in the 1600s, marveling at a magical, heavy, glowing rock. Today, that exact same rock is an absolutely indispensable pillar of modern industry, medicine, and energy. So will synthetic lab-created substitutes eventually dethrone the 17th century alchemist's dream, driving it off the oil rigs into obscurity? Or will its perfectly balanced, entirely non-toxic density ensure that natural barite keeps holding down the global economy forever? It's a fantastic question that sits right at the intersection of earth science, human innovation, and global economics, and you can bet we'll be watching it closely. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.